parents kicked me out of the family dinner. "Go away, we don't want to see you," said Mom and Dad, so I left. But a month later, when my sister emptied their joint account, I should have known better than to show up. After everything that happened with Stacy, I knew it was going to be ugly. But Grandma called the night before and convinced me. "Douglas, she's still your mother. No matter what happens, you'll regret it if you don't go." I should have listened to my gut. It all started a month earlier when Stacy came to me practically sobbing and said she was in deep trouble. She had run up 10 grand in gambling debt, and now, she said, some very scary people were after her. She spun the usual dramatic story about how they were threatening her, how she'd pay me back, how she had no one else to turn to. I had heard it all before. This wasn't the first time Stacy had made a mess and expected the family to clean it up. Each time, Mom and Dad came to the rescue, covering her debts and making excuses for her. "She's just unlucky," Mom would say. "She's not like you, Douglas. She struggles with money." But I wasn't going to be her safety net. Not this time. When I told her no, her whole demeanor changed in an instant. The tears dried up and suddenly I was the worst person in the world. "You're my brother. How can you just stand there and let them come after me?" I told her the truth. "Because this is your fault, Stacy. You always do this, and I'm not going to fix it for you." That was all she needed to hear. She ran straight to Mom and Dad and twisted the story like she always did. The next night my phone rang. I didn't even get a hello before Dad started yelling. "How could you turn your back on your sister? She's family." Mom jumped in. "You have the money, Douglas. You're just being cruel." I told them the same thing I had told Stacy. "She did this to herself. If you want to bail her out, go ahead. But I'm not." That was the start of the silent treatment. I was completely frozen out. When I texted, I got short, cold replies. When I called, they didn't pick up. Then Mom's birthday came around. I had no plans to go. But Grandma convinced me to go, and a small part of me thought maybe they'd cooled off. Maybe a month would be enough time to move on. I was dead wrong. When I walked into the house, I barely got 2 steps in before Dad turned to me, his face already red. Mom was standing with her arms crossed, and Stacy was sitting at the dining room table, smiling as if she knew exactly what was going to happen. Dad's voice was sharp. "Why are you here?" I hesitated. "It's Mom's birthday." Mom's reaction was ice cold. "Either you help your sister or we don't want you here." Just like that. No hesitation. No guilt. I looked at them, waiting for someone to realize how crazy they sounded. But they just stared, waiting for me to give in. Then I looked at Stacy. She didn't look embarrassed or grateful. Just smug. Like she had won. So I walked away. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't even bother to say goodbye. I just turned and walked out, hearing the door slam behind me. And that was the end of it for a while. After they threw me out, I decided I was done with them. No calls, no texts. If they wanted to choose Stacy over me, let them. I focused on work, went to the gym more, and honestly, I felt lighter without all their drama. Then, about a month later, I got a call from Dad. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the best of me. The moment I answered, he sounded like a completely different person, panicked. "Douglas, we need to talk. It's urgent." I wasn't interested. "Oh, now you want to talk? What happened? Did Stacy lose another 10 grand? Silence. Then, in a voice so low I barely recognized it, he said, "She took everything." That got my attention. "What do you mean, everything?" "Our savings. The entire account. Your mother and I woke up this morning and there was nothing. She cleaned us out." I couldn't help it. I laughed. After all these years of defending her, covering for her, this is what they got. Dad didn't think it was funny. "This is no joke, Douglas. We're talking $60,000. 60 grand. Gone." I whistled. "Wow. That's tough. Guess she had some bad luck at the casino again, huh?" She won't return our calls. We don't even know where she is. This part actually surprised me. Stacy was reckless, but she never disappeared. She liked drama too much to just disappear. Dad took a breath. Douglas, please. We need your help. I let that sink in for a second. They needed me now? After telling me to get out? After treating me like I was nothing compared to Stacy? Why would I? Mom's voice suddenly cut in, shaky and exasperated. Because you're our son, we made a mistake. But we need you now. I should have hung up. I wanted to hang up. But a small part of me wanted to see how far Stacy had gone. So I agreed to meet her. When I showed up at their house, they looked terrible. Mom's eyes were red, like she'd been crying all night, and Dad looked older, like the stress had aged him physically. I sat down across from them. All right. Start from the beginning. Mom sniffed. Last night we went to sleep as usual. This morning, your father went to check our joint account, and it was empty. Every last dollar was gone. We called the bank, but the money had already been transferred. All of it. I frowned. Transferred where? Dad clenched his fists. To a new account. Under Stacy's name. That was bold, even for her. So she didn't even try to hide it? She left us a text, Mom whispered, then slid her phone toward me. It was short, just a single message from Stacy. You guys have always helped me. Consider this my last bailout. Don't bother looking for me. I stared at it for a long time. I wasn't even angry, I was impressed. Stacy had burned it completely. I looked up at Mom and Dad, who were both waiting for me to say something. And I smiled. Well, I guess you finally found out who your favorite child really is. Mom broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. Dad just sat there, staring at nothing, as if his brain couldn't process what had happened. I wasn't in a hurry to comfort them. They had had years to see this coming. They chose to ignore all the warning signs. Now reality had slapped them in the face. So what do you want me to do? I finally asked. Dad straightened up. You work in finance. You know about banking, fraud. Can't you help us get the money back? I sighed. It's not that simple. You gave her access to the account, didn't you? Mom hesitated, then nodded. She was supposed to use it for emergencies. I almost laughed. Yeah, well, I guess she had an emergency at the blackjack table. Dad slammed his fist down on the table. Douglas, this is our savings. I leaned back. And you gave it to a gambling addict. What do you want me to say? For the first time, Mom looked at me angrily. As if I was the problem here. We are your parents. We raised you, we took care of you. And when we ask for help, this is how you treat us? I stared at her, hardly believing what I was hearing. You took care of both of us, but when Stacy needed help, you expected me to step in. When I needed support, you kicked me out. And now that she's screwed you over, suddenly I'm supposed to drop everything? Dad began to pace. We're not asking for money, Douglas, we just need to fix this. There must be something we can do. There was. But they wouldn't like it. I took a deep breath. There is a way to get the money back. But it's messy. Mom and Dad both leaned in. What is it? I pulled out my phone. If Stacy took out all that money, she's probably gambling right now. She's not smart enough to hide it. She thinks she'll double it before anyone can stop her. Mom looked sick. You think she's at the casino? Not just any casino, I said. The one that banned her. Because here's the thing, Stacy had already blown her chances at every respectable casino in town. But she had connections, and I had a strong suspicion that she had gone somewhere illegal. Dad's eyes widened. You mean? Yep, I nodded. Underground gambling. Places that don't care about prohibition. Places that don't care if she loses everything and leaves in debt to the wrong people. Now they really panicked. Mom grabbed my arm. We have to find her. I shook my head. I'm not going to some backroom casino just to drag her out. Dad clenched his jaw. Then what do we do? I pulled up a contact on my phone. A guy named Ryan. Someone I used to work with before he left finance for riskier ventures. I looked at Mom and Dad. We're not going to find Stacy. We'll let them find her. And then I hit call. Ryan answered after 2 rings. Douglas. Haven't heard from you in a while. Yeah, I need a favor, I said. You still have connections in the underground gambling scene? Ryan chuckled. Are you finally getting into trouble? Not me, I said. My sister. She stole 60 grand and is probably losing it as we speak. That got his attention. 60? Damn. Yeah, I might know where she is. But if she's gambling in one of these places, it won't be easy to get her out. I glanced at Mom and Dad, who were both staring at me in despair. I don't need her out. I need the money back. Ryan was silent for a second. Then he sighed. All right. I'll ask around. If she's at one of the usual places, I'll let you know. I hung up and looked at my parents. Now we wait. Dad frowned. That's it. Just wait. Do you have a better idea? Mather answered. An hour later, Ryan texted me an address. It was in a part of town where normal people didn't go after dark. I found it. Playing high stakes. Losing badly. I showed the text to Dad. His face turned pale. She's going to gamble it all away, isn't she? She already is. Mom grabbed my arm. We have to go now. I shook my head. If we barge in and start yelling, they'll just throw us out. Those places don't like attention. Dad clenched his fists. So what, we just let them burn through everything? No, I said. We'll do something smarter. Ryan had given me another piece of information. The house always had a collector, a guy who dealt with debts. And in these illegal places, debt wasn't just, pay us when you can. If Stacy lost more than she had, they would own her. And she was definitely losing more than she had. So I made a call. Not to Ryan this time, but to the collector. A deep voice answered. Who is this? There's a girl playing there tonight. Stacy. Blonde, mid-30s, loud. I'm her brother. A pause. Then a dark chuckle. Yeah, we know her. She's very generous with her money. Are you calling to cover her losses? Not exactly, I said. But I do have a business proposition for you. Another pause. Then, I'm listening. I grinned. What if I told you that I could make sure that Stacy pays every cent she owes, but not in a way that puts you at risk? I could feel the interest on the other end. Go on. I glanced at Mom and Dad, who were both watching me anxiously. She stole the money, I continued, and my parents want it back. But I guess she's already down to her last few grand, right? The collector sighed. Pretty much. That girl has no self-control. Exactly, I said. So here's what we do. You let her keep playing. Let her dig her hole so deep she can't climb out. And when she finally realizes she's screwed, you let her parents bail her out. Now I had Dad's full attention. The collector chuckled again. And why would we do that? Because my parents are desperate. They'll do anything to get their money back. And when they realize they have no other choice, they'll pay off their debt. Every single cent. I could hear the wheels turning in his head. And what do you get out of it? I grinned. I get to watch them suffer. Silence. Then, finally, you got a deal. I hung up and turned to Mom and Dad. Pack your wallets, I said. Because in a few hours, Stacy will be coming to you for help. And for once, you're going to say no. We sat in silence, waiting. Mom kept fidgeting, looking at Dad as if he'd magically come up with a better solution. Dad just stared at the floor, his jaw clenched. I was enjoying this far too much. 3 hours later, just after midnight, Mom's phone rang. Stacy. Mom gasped and almost answered immediately, but I grabbed her wrist. Put it on speaker. She hesitated, then did. The second she picked up, Stacy's voice came through, frantic. Mom! Mom, you have to help me! Mom's hand shook, but I held up a finger, silently telling her not to break. Dad spoke instead. What's wrong, Stacy? I screwed up, okay? I lost everything, and now these guys won't let me leave. They say I owe them 20 grand on top of what I've already spent. I don't have that money. I could hear voices in the background, deep and serious. The collector was doing his job. Please, she sobbed. You must send me the money. Now. Mom looked like she was about to break. Dad wasn't far behind. I leaned in. Ask her where the 60 grand went. Dad swallowed hard, then asked, What about the money you stole from us? Stacy sniffed. It's gone. I tried to get it back. I thought if I could just... I cut in. Let me get this straight. You stole our parents' life savings, blew it all in a single night, and now you expect them to cover more of your debts? Stacy froze. Then, as always, she changed tactics. Douglas, you don't understand. These guys aren't just debt collectors. They said if I don't pay, they'll... She choked on the words, trying to make it sound as dramatic as possible. I didn't flinch. What? Break your legs? Take a kidney? Sounds like your problem. Mom gasped. Douglas! I ignored her. You made this mess, Stacy. You deal with it. Now she was in full panic mode. You can't do this to me. Mom! Dad! Please, I'll pay you back, I swear! Dad was breathing heavily, clearly on the verge of breaking down. I wasn't finished. Get one of the boys on the phone. Stacy sputtered. What? You said they're right there, right? Put one on the phone. A few seconds of muffled arguing. Then a new voice came through, deep and calm. The collector. That's some cold-blooded stuff, brother. Respect. How bad is she? I asked. Down to her last chip, he said. We gave her a chance. Even warned her. But she doesn't know when to run. I nodded. I thought so. Mom burst out. Please. We just want to make sure she's okay. The collector chuckled. She's fine. For now. Dad finally cracked. We'll pay. Just tell us how dash. I slammed my hand down on the table, making them both jump. No. You won't. Dad turned on me. Douglas, she's our daughter. She's a thief. I snapped. She stole from you. And now you're going to reward her? Mom cried again. We can't just leave her there. Yes, we can, I said. And we will. Silence. Then the collector chuckled again. Damn. I wasn't expecting that. Stacy yelled through the phone. You can't do this to me. I stayed calm. Just let her scream, let her panic, let it sink in that for the first time in her life she couldn't be saved. After a long pause, the collector spoke again, amused. Well, looks like she's staying. And then the call ended. Mom burst into sobs. Dad just sat there, pale and trembling. I sat back. She'll figure something out. She always does. And I meant it. Because the thing about Stacy? She was a survivor. The real fun was going to be what she had to do to survive this time. The next morning, Mom and Dad looked like they hadn't slept at all. Mom's eyes were puffy. Dad was still clutching his coffee like it was the only thing keeping him upright. Either of them spoke to me. I didn't care. I'd made my point. Stacy had finally hit rock bottom. Or so I thought. At noon, Dad's phone rang. He answered it without thinking, and the moment I saw the color drain from his face, I knew something was wrong. Mom grabbed his arm. What? What is it? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. She's here. I blinked. What? The doorbell rang. Dad looked at me stunned. Stacy's at the front door. That didn't make sense. She was supposed to be deep in with the collectors. How did she get out so quickly? Mom ran to the door and yanked it open. And there she was. Stacy was standing on the porch, perfectly fine. No bruises, no broken bones. Her hair was messy, and her makeup was smeared like she'd been crying, but other than that, she looked normal. Like nothing had happened. "Mom!" She threw herself forward, sobbing into Mom's shoulder. "They let me go. I was so scared. I thought I was going to die." Mom held her, crying just as hard. "Oh, sweetheart. We were so worried." I crossed my arms. "How did you get out?" She looked up at me, eyes full of fake innocence. "They just let me go. I don't know why." I narrowed my eyes. "Bullshit. Stacy never got out of consequences that easily." Dad frowned. "But your debt." She wiped her face. "They said it was okay. That they didn't need it anymore. They just told me to go." Now I knew she was lying. Casinos, especially illegal ones, don't just walk away from debts. That's not the way they work. Something was wrong. I checked my phone and scrolled to Ryan's number. If something shady was going on, he'd know. Before I could call, a black SUV pulled up to the house. The engine shut off. The back door opened. And a man got out. Not just any man. The collector. Tall, broad, wearing a suit like he was attending a business meeting instead of chasing down debtors. He adjusted his cufflinks and walked up the driveway like he owned the place. Mom gasped and pulled Stacy behind her. What's going on?" I already knew. Stacy wasn't free. She just sold herself into something worse. The collector stopped in front of us and gave me an amused look. "You're a smart guy," he said. "Figured you'd figure it out." I clenched my jaw. "What did she do?" He grinned. Then he turned to Stacy. "You gonna tell them, honey? Or should I?" Stacy didn't look at us. Mom grabbed her shoulders. "Tell them what?" The collector chuckled softly. "Well, your daughter is broke. No money, no assets. But she did have one thing of value." Mom paled. "What does that mean?" Dad's hands were shaking. "Stacy?" She finally spoke, her voice small. "I made a deal. I told them I could work for them. Pay off the debt, some other way." Mom's face twisted in horror. No, honey, you didn't." "Relax," the collector said. "We're not doing anything illegal." Then he looked at me, eyes gleaming. "We just needed someone to run a little operation for us. Move money. Manage accounts." My stomach dropped. This wasn't about gambling anymore. This was money laundering. And Stacy had just signed up for it. The air felt heavy. Mom and Dad looked frozen, like their brains were refusing to process what was happening. I wasn't surprised. Stacy wasn't free, she was owned. I exhaled slowly. "So let me get this straight. Stacy gambled away 60 grand, took on another 20 in debt, and now, instead of paying it back, she's agreed to launder money for you?" The collector smiled. "She's a natural." Mom grabbed Stacy's arm. "You can't do this. She's not a criminal." He shrugged. "She is now." Dad stepped forward. "We'll pay her. Whatever she owes, we'll pay." The collector held up a hand. "You see, that would have worked yesterday. But now? We don't want your money. We want her." Mom started sobbing again. Stacy still wouldn't meet my eyes. I ran my hand over my face. "What exactly is she supposed to do?" The collector looked amused. "She moves money, does transactions, nothing crazy. The kind of work someone with her habits is good at." That meant one thing. They weren't just laundering money. They were using Stacy to move stolen money through gambling rings. And if she got caught, she'd go to jail. I turned to Stacy. "Did you really think this was a good idea?" She finally looked at me, her eyes red and distressed. "I had no choice. It was this or..." She stopped herself and shook her head. The collector smiled. "You're smart, Douglas. You know how this works. A deal is a deal." And just like that, I realized they didn't even need Stacy. They wanted me. That's why they let her go. They knew I'd step in. I sighed. You want the money back, right? The collector raised his eyebrows. Obviously. Then you don't need Stacy. You need someone who actually understands finance. Knows how to move money without raising red flags. His grin widened. And you're offering yourself instead? Mom gasped. Douglas, no! I ignored her. I can get you your money. All of it. Legally. No risk. No heat. The collector studied me for a moment, then chuckled. You're a lot smarter than your sister. I crossed my arms. Do we have a deal? Another long pause. Then, finally, he nodded. We have a deal. Relief washed over Mom and Dad. Stacy collapsed, looking like she couldn't believe I'd just saved her again. But I wasn't done. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and looked the collector dead in the eye. Say it. He tilted his head. Say what? That Stacy is free. That she owes you nothing. He let out a low laugh, then shrugged. Stacy's free. She owes us nothing. I stopped recording. Perfect. Now get out of here. The collector smiled, but didn't argue. He turned and walked back to the SUV and drove away as if nothing had happened. The second he was gone, Mom hugged me. Oh, thank God. I was so scared. You saved her. Dad nodded. Douglas. I don't know what to say. Stacy just stood there with her arms crossed. I didn't ask for your help. I scoffed. You never do. She looked at me but said nothing. I turned to Dad. You're going to pay me back the 60 grand. Every cent. I don't care how long it takes. Dad swallowed hard but nodded. Mom wiped her eyes. But what are you going to do? You promised them you'd get their money. I grinned. Oh, I'll get their money. Just not the way they expect. Stacy frowned. What do you mean? I pulled up my contacts and dialed a number. The phone rang twice before a voice answered. This is Detective Harris. I smiled. Hey, Detective. I've got a tip for you. Some very interesting people are moving dirty money through underground casinos. And I know just where to find them. Stacy's face turned pale. Douglas, what are you doing? I met her eyes, completely calm. I'm burning it all down. Mom gasped. Dad's mouth fell open. Stacy took a step back. I just turned and walked out the door. Because I was done playing their games. This time, I was the one in control.